Lai, 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 lai. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to ask my friend and colleague, Rabbi David from the Temple, to start us off with a selection from the book of Proverbs from Mishlei.
The Psalm Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, describes Elaine perfectly. She was a woman of valor, both at home, to her family, and beloved, and brought only good to our community. Eshet Chayil mi ימצא, ורחוק מפנינים מכרע. בטח בלב בעלה, ושלל לא יחסר. גמלתו טוב ולא רע, כל ימי חייה. דרשה צמר לפשתים, ותעש בחפץ כפיה. כפה פרסה לעני, וידיה שלחה לאביון. עוז והדר לבושה, ותשחק ליום אחרון. פיה פתחה בחוכמה, ותורת חסד על לשונה. צופיה הליכות ביתה, ולחם עצלות לא תאכל. קמו בניה ויאשרוה, בעלה ויעלליה. רבות בנות עשו חיל, ואת עלית על כולנה. שקר החן והבל היופי. אישה יראת אדוני היא תתהלל. תנו לה מפרי ידיה, ויעללוה בשערים מעשיה. A woman of valor, who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm. All the days of her life, she perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her family rises up and blesses her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all.
Let us recite together the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Elaine and Donnie are two of the most gratitude-focused people that I know. Yes, there have been moments of criticism over the years I've known them, but always delivered, at least to me, with gentleness and tact. If there were a scale to put critique on one side and gratitude on the other, the appreciation for things done that most of us would simply accept without comment, not only would the scale be balanced to the gratitude side, you'd probably have to invest in a new scale. They were the type of people that didn't need a bucket list. They took care of it in living their lives with gratitude and doing the things they loved to do when they had the time and energy to do them. Traveling, being with friends, spending important time with family. Elaine also liked to play bridge and to deploy her sly sense of humor. She kept busy also as a life member of the Louisville chapter of the National Council of Jewish Women and served on its board of directors. In addition, she helped resettle Jewish refugees from Ukraine and Russia in the 1980s and 90s. Because doing things separately from time to time is the sign of a good marriage. a marriage which shows acknowledgement of the fact that no matter how much two people may love each other, part of their joy in life will come in doing things separately that the other is not particularly wild about. When it comes to Elaine, she was a middle child. Jay was the big brother, and you'd think he had all the responsibility, but when it came to baby Mel, Elaine was in charge. She had all the responsibility. She took him everywhere, to be with her friends, to Girl Scouts, to meetings. He'd participate in making toys with them. I don't know whether they sold cookies back in the day, but I'm guessing little Mel got some of the oddly shaped ones that tasted just as good as the ones that made it to the box. In later years, they talked often, kept up with each other. She never stopped being his big sister. She met Donnie because he studied with her big brother Jay, his pharmaceutical chavruta, his study partner in Aramaic. They had a shotgun wedding, not the traditional version of the term, no. Donnie was wise to volunteer for the army so he'd be able to anticipate his service rather than be called up at an inopportune moment. Thus, they had to get the arrangements done in a month's time, and Elaine's dad made sure it was no holds barred. They did get rid of the shrimp cocktail before Rabbi Gittleman showed up. Please don't do that to me. Either one. But the attitude of gratitude started early. Whenever anyone thanked Donnie for his service, assuming they were American taxpayers, he'd say, "No, thank you." He ended up in Tokyo running the pharmacy for soldiers on leave from Korea after the war, and it was one of the best years of their lives. He showed me a picture of them in Japanese garb, looking like they were in the cast of The Mikado. Elaine's face hadn't changed that much over 7 decades. I'd recognize them both without hesitation. Elaine finished her degree at University of Louisville in home economics and worked for GE creating the first cookbook for microwave ovens, back when that was a new thing. Her cooking and baking was always precise and tasty and had to look good. The colors on the plate had to have aesthetic appeal. Now, modern nutritionists will tell you that one sign of a healthy meal is when the natural non-dyed colors of a plate are diverse, just as Elaine had figured out half a century ago. She was such a perfectionist as a cook that even when Sherry Jones started working for the Stearns, cooking and cleaning and taking care of Elaine in all ways, and I do mean all ways, Elaine had a hard time letting Sherry work out menus in the kitchen without constant over-the-shoulder supervision. Mom Elaine lived up to the Stern of her married name in raising her kids and was a devotee of Dr. Spock. If they had a fight with one another, she'd tell them to go work it out. If they persisted, she'd go out to lunch. That meant into her room and force them to work it out on their own. Sometimes Donnie would get calls at the pharmacy that Mommy was being mean. Well, blame Dr. Spock. They traveled everywhere, often with an artistic agenda. Spain, Paris, and trips with John Martin, the art professor at Hanover College, included tours of Chicago, Philadelphia, Arkansas, where the niece of Walmart's CEO had the largest American collection of art in the world, the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. She loved art so much she was a docent for decades at the Speed and did the regular tours, but loved especially teaching the children about art and doing the tours for and with them. When it came to grandkids, she would often cook special dishes for the picky in her midst, and even they had to be a little bit fancy, pasta wheels with tomato sauce. She would make funny faces at the grandkids when they left after a visit, and years later when they grew up, they would be able to depend on her for Q&A when it came to cooking and baking dilemmas. On the first day of Passover, I spoke about the many fours that are part of the Seder, the 4 cups, the 4 sons, the 4 questions. There are even fours within fours. 4 sections of the Maggid, 4 sections before the Maggid of the storytelling. And even in the Maggid itself, the storytelling itself, each of the 4 sections have their own fours. It's very fractal. 4 verses upon which the Midrash is built, 4 verbs upon which the 4 cups of wine were based. Well, Elaine had her own tandem set of 4s. 2 4-letter words. I won't say them. There were 2 of the 7 that at one time you couldn't hear on TV. Well, those are old days after all. Well, now, as Cole Porter said, anything goes. Hamevin Yavin, the one who understands will understand. And I'm not sure it ever came up at the Seder, either the one that was featured in the Courier Journal in the late 70s, when Rabbi Kling of blessed memory recommended the Stearns for an article that ran, or even the one this past week that Donnie also led. But as the Seder brings us a learning experience of all senses, hearing, seeing, feeling, smelling, and not to forget, tasting, Elaine's life was a full one, with all of those experiences, one that didn't require a bucket list to be missed. We miss her, and at the same time we must admit, she lived her life to the fullest. A life with an attitude of gratitude, with just enough horseradish to make it interesting. The metaphorical and literal spice she sprinkled into the main course of a well-lived, well-traveled, well-played life. Tehei nishmata tzrura b'tzrora chayim. May the life of Elaine Kobe Stern be bound up in the bonds of life eternal. And let us say, Amen. We rise for the memorial prayer.
Shochein bamromi Hamsei menucha nechona tachot katvei hashchina B'malot kedoshim u'tehorim Kezohar harakia maziri Et nishmati lana bat Binyaminu mina Shalcha le'olama Began Eden demenuchata Ahana bal rachami Astineha beseter knafecha leolami Utzror bitzrochaim et nishmata Adonai nachalata V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava V'nomar Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Elaine Stern, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The eternal is her portion. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. This service continues at the Attic Assurance Cemetery on Preston Highway. There will be Shiva Minyans tonight, Thursday, Sunday, and Monday evenings, all at 7 p.m. at the Glenview. Tonight it will be in the Steinfeld room, and for the rest of the 3 Shiva Minyans, they will be in Donnie's apartment, 1023. We remain standing in silent tribute as Elaine is escorted to her final resting place.